Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Reddit Quickie from the subreddit HFY, called The Clockmaker, written by Legal. The link to the original story is down below. And as always, I hope you enjoy. What do I know of philosophy? I'm just a clockmaker. And yet, I find myself staring at the only two books in the whole town that approaches the subject. One of them isn't so much help, since it was given to me by Father Sienna. All it tells me about philosophy is that some power greater than myself has already laid out all the rules, and I just need to follow them. The other, well, it's a bit tricky. One of those isn't exactly a philosophy book, per se. Is that the right term, per se? I think it is. Heard it used like that before. It's a bit more of a how-to book. All it really says is that it's up to us to do everything that we can, in order to discover what we can do with what we didn't realize yet. I've read it cover to cover many times over the years. My father gave it to me for my 13th birthday. Shortly after I had my first pair of glasses made, they were incredible things to me. Some little bits of glass, some wire, to hold them into my face, and suddenly the world came into focus. He knew how much I liked him, so he gave me the book. And while again, it's a how-to book, that sort of idea that we may do everything that we can in order to discover what more we can do. Well, that becomes my philosophy of sorts. Maybe I'm going about this all wrong. Maybe I need a book on that other thing, morals. Well, I don't feel like I did anything wrong. Ethics, maybe? That might be the word I want. I'll have to find someone who has a dictionary. That won't be easy either. Not out here. There was a rumble from outside when I quickly reached out and set my hands on my tools so that they didn't get disorganized while the ship passed. I could see the outside of my window briefly, the stars and the strikers flying proudly off the back. They'd come a long way from the gliders and clippers that I saw as a kid. Now they were Ironsides, proud ships of peace, they said, as if a warship was a peace ship. Don't know if they were lying to us or themselves. Not like anyone minded. Anything to keep the marauders at bay and the old kingdoms. But those were troubles with other people. People who had an affinity for six-shooters and rifles and that sort of thing. Not me. I made clocks. Made. The word rolled around my head for a little while. Was it already past tense? I leaned back now that the ship had passed in the danger of disorganizing my tools with it. I suppose that after this there was a chance that I really was done making clocks. Maybe. To think that it had all started with a small gift of bluestone. I knew that it was lifted our ships up out of the water or carried them above the lava pools from plateau to plateau. I heard it had some funny properties, they said. Well, I was far too curious to worry about the hazards, of course. The ones I knew about from the manual, at least. I'd found a few others while I worked. Had to let my eyebrows regrow twice. All that I'd been trying to do was create a toy, something that I could sell with the clocks, something for the kids. They didn't need to know what the time was. What did they care? They had all the time in the world right up until life decides that they needed to grow up in a hurry. Then they'd need clocks to get to work on time. But until then, a toy. That's all it was meant to be. I took a deep, slow breath, fingers rubbing across my forehead while I leaned back and looked at my creation sitting there before me on the table. It had some charcoal in its hand that I'd given it. It was drawing. It had only supposed to be a toy. A little wind-up thing. I thought the bluestone would give it some extra. I don't know. Extra something? Power? What did I know? I made clocks. Make, I don't know. It slowly turned to look at me, and it held up a piece of scrap paper that it had been drawing on with the charcoal. It was me and him. 2 days ago, it had been a childlike drawings, very simple, very basic. Now, he was properly shading an image that looked almost as good as those tintypes. I was smiling, and he was sitting on my shoulder. Even without a mouth, it looked happy, like he was a little helper or something. I reached up for my glass and quickly tossed it back, squeezing my eyes shut and gasping softly as the whiskey burned all the way down. It wasn't much of a drinker, or I hadn't been up until 2 days ago. I set the paper and charcoal down as he got up, walking a few steps across the table before reaching back and twisting the key to keep himself wound up. He kept himself wound up. He knew what would happen if it ever stopped. I didn't teach him that. He just knew. Once he was done, he walked forwards once more, his legs a little stiff, his gait a bit off. Maybe I should adjust it, help him walk smoother. Him. When had I started thinking of it as a him? It lifted up the bottle then, tilting it to pour some more whiskey into my glass, and then set it back down before walking over to the papers once more and sitting down to pick up the charcoal. I wondered what he'd draw next. He, she, it. I licked my lips, which felt dry and parched despite the fact that I had plenty to drink. I reached over to pick up my how-to book, my own philosophical guide of sorts. I carefully opened it up and turned to the set of pages near the back. There was a list, one written in my own hand 15 years ago. At the end of the main part of the book, the writer encourages the reader to write out a list of things that they didn't think that they could do, and then challenging them to do it in any way to prove themselves wrong. Since I wrote the list when I was 13, I've been wrong about a great many things on my list. But some, well, I had been right so far, and now I moved my pencil up the list to the very first item that I'd written down. The very thing that as a boy I was positive that I would never, ever in 100 years be able to do. I crossed it off. Create life. With that done, I slowly closed the book and set it aside once more. Then my hand started to move to something else on the table, but it was shaking so badly that I had to stop short. All I could do was stare at it. A gun. I had bought it yesterday. I'd never used one before, but Hector was nice enough to show me how, and let me hit out a bottle at the range out back. I hadn't managed to hit it, but he said I was close. I could never undo what I'd done. I'd never uncross that line in my book. But did I let it continue? Did I have the courage to see what would come of this? Did I have the courage to not see what would come of this? It was the sort of question the great thinkers of history were supposed to know. Not someone like me. I started to reach out again and stopped. My hands retreated to the grip of my arms of my chair as I stared ahead. He was drawing something else now, something new. I didn't know what it was, but I knew what it looked like from here. Blueprints. That's what I'd say at least. I'd watched him for another few moments and then recognized that he was designing a clock. I slowly looked around the walls of my workshop and all the clocks around me, some small, some large, some simple, some intricate, and they all had the exact same time on them. They'd stopped working, all at the same time 2 days ago, when I'd finished it. I started to reach forward once more, my eyes focused on the handle of the gun, but somehow my fingers missed and they closed around my glass. I didn't drink more whiskey though, not yet. I just kept staring at it, at my books, at my tools. I saw them, and yet I didn't see them. My glasses were cracked. The same explosion. Was that the right word for it? The event that stopped the clocks when I first wound the gears to make it dance. It had also cracked my glasses. I'd need to get them fixed, but the lens crafter wouldn't be through for another month or so. Glasses. That made me better. They let me see. When someone had sat down and created glasses, had they thought that they were making the world a better place? That they would be helping people? That they would make the fellow man stronger in some small way? Or were they curious, like me? Did they just start making a lens to see what they could do and couldn't do? Did they have any idea of what sort of impact their invention would have, and what was their intent? I didn't have an answer for any of those questions, much like I had no answers to my own questions. I picked up my glass then, knocking it back as the whiskey made me gasp as it burned all the way down yet again. I slumped back in my chair then, lacking the will, or whatever the best word for it was, to grab the gun, or to even fill my glass again. But just like before, he stood up and stiffly walked over to the bottle to pour me some more. Once he was standing, I could see the drawing better. The clock he was designing looked wonderful, elegant in its simplicity, the sort of thing I like to make, something that would last for years, even out here. I felt like crying, and I wasn't exactly sure why. I was angry and sad and confused and drunk, but mostly, certainly, drunk. But that didn't really change the trueness of what I was thinking. The trueness. My eyes unfocused a bit, then so I could look out at the little cracks of the lenses before my eyes. What do I know of philosophy? I'm just a clockmaker, and from the looks of that drawing, so is he. End of story. And that, my friends, is the end of this Reddit quickie. I hope that you enjoyed. If you'd like to support the channel or the author, all the stuff is down below. And as always, I hope that you guys have a good one, and I will see you in the next story. Cheers.